I want to do a comparison between these two toolboxes. On the left is a Ridgid, on the right is a DeWalt. Here we see the specs. The Ridgid is a 22-inch Pro toolbox. It's their model number 222570, and that was $39 at Lowe's. And that's the size given by the company. The toolbox material is high impact resin. The IP rating I cannot find for it. Then we show the DeWalt DWST08203. It's their DS300 large case series. That was $45 at Home Depot. Next you see the sizes as listed by the company. Toolbox material is structural foam. All this information I got from both websites. And then the IP rating is an IP rating of 65. Now an IP rating of 65 means that the 6, it would be totally protected against dust ingress, and the 5, it's protected against low pressure water jets from any direction. Here's a general overall view of the two together. Here's the two boxes stacked. The DeWalt's on top. Alright, let's look at the handles on these. This one locks. Well, it not necessarily locks, but it does kind of click into position there. As does the DeWalt. The DeWalt has a, shall I say, clunky feel. I don't know, it just kind of a clunky feel versus the more solid feel of the Ridgid. Now if we take a look at that DeWalt handle, what it looks like is there's just a tab here, and that locks in. Let's take a look here. Yes, so that tab that you saw, and you already see some plastic coming from it. So as you bring that back, that must lock somehow in here. Here's the Ridgid handle. We're looking at it from the front of the box. Now let's flip it around. Here we are from the back. Not quite sure what's in there. There's something in here. But again, in my opinion, just has a better, it probably has a, well, I don't know if I'll be able to see that. Looks like it locks in here. Maybe not. But it just has a much better solid feel to it. Again, my opinion. Next I want to take a look at the latch mechanism on both of these. The Ridgid, nice and simple. I really do like it. Very easy. does have a hole here if you want to put a lock in it. I think any of these, I don't care who the manufacturer is, when they put these locks there, that's just to keep the honest guy honest. If the guy wants in this box, obviously he's going to take a cutter to it, cut it open with a carbureting blade, whatever. So that's just to keep a guy out of it. I don't see any need for it myself, but it does have that feature. Now let's go take a look at the DeWalt. The DeWalt has a spot here where you could lock them. Again, same thing with that. You could take a tool here and cut it, pull the lock off. Now, to open this, it's got this system, this latch here. And again, in my opinion, I think it's just like a stamp piece. It's kind of cheap. But I'm going to tell you, it is harder than hell. I mean, it's very, very tight. See no reason for that. Okay, and to close it, I mean, it's, you literally, yeah, that doesn't impress me a bit. It's, and both of them are like this. Don't understand that. You just can't push it down like that. Now let's take one more look. The Ridgid. One finger. Your grandmother could open that and close it. Let's revisit these latches again, because I want to show you that they're both tight like that. The ones at the store were like that. And again, I'll go back to this one. It opens okay. It takes a little more effort than the Ridgid did. Definitely takes more effort. This one takes more effort than the other side. But here's where they really lose me. Okay. Now, one should only have to take a couple fingers, you'd think, to push that down and close it. Okay. But I've got to bear down. I'm going to bear down on this and see. I mean, I've got to bear down on that. I think that is utterly ridiculous. I bear down on the top so the toolbox doesn't go back as I push down. So, in my opinion, that's where this box fails for me big time. I just, you know, $39 for the Ridgid versus $45 for this. You know, as I also stated, the handle is not, just doesn't have, again, the same feel. I like the feel. I like the lock. Seems more secure, the system on the Ridgid, than does this one. Now both of these boxes have a stack system. Now I do have other boxes, so I am familiar with the on the Ridgid, okay, and I've seen the DeWalt at the store. By the way, this box will be going back, but these are real simple. Put your other box on top. You'll see down here where that just fits right up in there. Rubberized surface here to pull it apart. Works really well. Now the DeWalt, again, it works off of this and I did not try it at the store, but your box would sit on top here and this would clamp it. One other thing that this box has on the side, I guess you could use that for if you wanted for handles, you know, but this does have handles. Now the other side springs real nice. This won't go back in place. And I'll show you. Here's the other side. So that's just something that I noticed between the two. Let's take a look at the hinge system. We're looking at the back side. This is the Ridgid. It has a full continuous hinge. And this axle, when you open up the lid, this is what keeps it from going back all the way. That zigzag in there. Here is your DeWalt. It likewise has a full length. Now, when I say full length, there is a spot here that's open, and somewhat likewise, this is open other than this part here. So they both look adequate. I mean, mine's worked. I'm sure this is fine too on the DeWalt. So, and it's pinned. The DeWalt is pinned, which is nice. Not sure of the material, but that's a good, nice feature. I think this is for the stacking system, where you can put a bar through here to lock it. And then again, same with the DeWalt. So here's a close-up with the Ridgid, I mean. So there's the Ridgid, there's the DeWalt. So I would call them on par that way with the hinge. And we're going to look at the inside of the hinges. This is the Ridgid. And this is the DeWalt. Both systems come with an inside tray. This is the Ridgid. And it sets in so where it can't slide. It's got those tabs there, so when it goes in, okay. And as you can see here, the DeWalt has a much bigger tray, and it's got some little slight partitions, which is kind of nice. And likewise, it has a nesting spot so that when you set it in there, it'll stay. Also of note, the DeWalt does have a purge valve. There you're looking at the inside of it. So if we go to the outside of the box, air vent, the air valve, keep closed, obviously to keep the IP65 rating. Then you would turn it to purge, I guess to make it easier to open up the lid. And again, you always want to make sure you close that to preserve your rating. Now this is looking at the Ridgid. We're looking at the structural makeup on the inside of the lid. And here's a structural makeup on the inside of the DeWalt. The ribs are very thick in there. I'm sure it'd be a great box. I quite honestly am not too impressed with just the ways those latches are. Really not, I don't know. That really detracts from the box in my opinion. Now here's the area in which the O-ring seal would ride. Here's your Ridgid, and here's your DeWalt. Here we have the O-rings of each box. The Ridgid again on your left, the DeWalt on your right. Now, when I did a test of the Ridgid versus the Craftsman had a really, in my opinion, weak, I don't know, I didn't think it was a very good seal. The one here feels like it is a rubber seal. Again, I can't find the type of either one from either manufacturer what this O-ring seals are. Now the Ridgid is more dense, I should say. It's not as when you push in on it, it's more dense. Whereas the DeWalt is more pliable, should I say, where you can push in on it and it squeezes more. Don't know if you can see that. But it's more pliable, where the Ridgid box is stiffer, the seal. Here we'll look at the inside. The Ridgid on your left, the DeWalt on your right. Now here's something I want to do. I did this when I compared the Ridgid to the Craftsman, and the Craftsman failed miserably. But I want to see what the structural strength is this way on both of them, side to side. So let's start with the Ridgid first. I'm going to push, hold here, come here, and push. And you can see it's very rigid. The Craftsman just pushed right in. Let me do the same with the DeWalt. Put my hand back here to hold it. Come up here and push, and it's very rigid. In fact, I might say it's a hair more than the very, very rigid. Go back to the Ridgid brand, and it comes in a little bit. But they're both structurally sound. I like that. Well, guys, there's the differences between the two. Again, strictly my opinion. I'll take the Ridgid all day long, and I'm sure that the DeWalt is fine structurally, but for me, the Ridgid box, there's no negatives to the Ridgid box in my opinion, for myself. But this will just let anybody that's interested to see the differences between the two, what they might be.